And we're going to ask Sir Pat to come and tell us a little bit about DC's life. I'm sure he has a number of anecdotes, a number of stories that we will hear about in a second or two.
Good evening, church, and thank you very much, Sam. I am here at a very painful moment for a man I've known for 46 years plus. A former partner of mine said to me, "You were simply the brother he never had." And, sorry, Sam, I don't know anything about this contraption. Tell them to fix it up. Is it on? Can you hear me? Oh, okay, maybe it was too far. Yeah, the brother that I never had. Life is about where did it all start. Some many years ago, I was called to the bar. Yeah, and 4 weeks after my call, Denis came into my office, and for the first and last time, he called me Pat. I think thereafter it was Patty, a name used by my grandmother and my Aunt Muriel. And he asked me, Pat, you know anything about this insurance work? It was one thing my brother, who was over there, had told me. He says, "Young man, when you're a lawyer, you have to exude confidence." And I simply said, "Oh yeah, I'm top of the game, man. I'm top of the game." Utter rubbish. Utter rubbish. I knew nothing about what he was going to give me. But he, as he said for this service here, quick in, quick out. He said, "I have a file here for you." I said, "Oh, thank you very much." And he left the file and was gone, never saw him. The file was what we call in the insurance, I see William Tomlin there listening very intently, a recovery. He had insured at Barbados Hardware Insurance, an Arl Seal vehicle, which was involved in an accident just over there at Durrell's Hill. I remember it very well. And they were not at fault. He had repaired it under the comprehensive policy. He wanted to get back the money. So this young lawyer, 4 weeks, green and running behind the ears, was supposed to do the recovery. I didn't have a clue what to do. But there's nothing like bumbling around. And I bungle around, eventually got it right. I tell you what happened. A man called Lionel Griffith, Doc, you remember him? Of many years, Lionel Griffith recognized that this youngster probably meant well but had no skills, and helped me along and sent me a check for $8,100 and something, payable to Barbados Hardware Insurance. And I've had a check for fees, yeah, Wilfred, $810. I kept that check for about 2 weeks. I was looking at it all the time. I said, boy, this is a serious piece of money. And I was very happy. And that was really my start with Denis. I've never asked him, because I never had the confidence to ask him, whether he was impressed with my know-how, which was zero, it was the left side of zero, and moving rapidly, or what he was impressed with. He never said. He's a very perceptive chap, though. I learned that over the years. But I will tell you, he briefed me from there until he died. He briefed me. He is the man, the single individual who is responsible for my takeoff in law. That man there. And that is why it pained me when I last looked for him with Sam. I don't know if you went back, Sam, but the Thursday when we were there. No, we didn't go back. I walked in the room and tears were just, well, I don't know, something was running down my face. And I said, but wait, hold a minute, Denis's house is leaking. So I tell them, as usual, look up. I said, well, what's going on here? I never know. Denis, the man, keeps his house in immaculate condition. And I recognized, and I look at the ceiling, and I said, but there's no mark, so this is a fresh leak. And look up again, I realized the water from the roof was coming down here. I said, Cheltenham, grab yourself, man. You're a crane. You have no control over it. And that was how I felt about it. But I spent 75 minutes with him. Sam was there the last half, and I regaled Sam, and I knew Denis could hear that of it, that I had no doubt about the trip, which I will have to tell you, of South Africa. You cannot have a tribute to Denis and not talk about the trip to South Africa. There's too much good humor in it. And I have some little notes here, which I shall share with you. So that was the start of my work with him. And I remember saying to myself, generous man. And indeed he was, and has always been. He came back when I had the check to hand over, and he spent about a minute and a half with me. I saw him looking around intently. I don't know what he was looking at. And then he came back again. Told me he was going to Miami. Now, he didn't know where Miami was, to be honest with you. It was hard times, man. We didn't know what Miami was. He just left school in the early 70s, scrunting, and the Trinidadians would say, what, Miami? But he was going to Miami. And when he came back, he brought me 6 shirts. And immediately, my stock level went up by 120%. So clearly he recognized, but this fella, like, he got a little something in him. But he could do with some enhanced clothing. And I learned that about Denis with the passage of time. The man observes, he says very little. And when I start to share with you what I consider to be his principal characteristics, you will understand that. He listens a lot. He has opinions, don't get it wrong. Some quite irreverent and foolish. But he would listen and observe. So what really are the principal characteristics of this man? Kind and helpful is an understatement. But that is what he was. At his core, his substratum was informed by that, being kind and helpful. Extraordinarily resourceful. Anything between a common pin and a wide-bodied aircraft carrier, that man could find the answer to the problem in between there. And if you went outside the aircraft carrier, the wide-bodied version, he knew 2 men who knew a man that knew another man that could fix it. That was the man. I have deposited many problems at his door, and he used to dismiss me all the time as an ignorant lawyer. So, you're a foolish fella, man, ignorant lawyer. It's straightforward like this. I say, yeah, man, thanks, D. Loyal to a fault. Loyal to a fault. That's the man I know. And equally, you better be loyal to him. Because if you ever threaten to cut the ground from under, you know the tectonic plates have shifted. He had a keen sense of business with an eye for opportunities. Simple story. On only one occasion did my brother Bruce and I persuade him of the value of having a swim with us on the West Coast, Paynes Bay. He could swim well. He had good backstroke movements, good freestyle movements. You wouldn't believe it. He's lazy. Never liked exercise. Took an oath against it. And but his sense of business. There was a chap there on these jet ski, carrying out a lot of tourists. And Denis watched him. Just watched him. 2 tourists he carried out, and then Denis called him, hey, I want to talk with you, man. Denis said, tell me something. You ever thought of running your own business? So I said, I have no money. He says, you live with your mother? Yeah. She got the title deeds to the house? Yeah, the title deeds at home. He said, all right, this is my name, this is where I operate from. Come to the office on Monday, and I can tell you how we can get some money for you. With some security against the title deeds, and we can get something for you. I can teach you how to do business on your own accord. I didn't remember that story. My brother Bruce and Johnny, who knew him from his days in England, they knew him long before me. Bruce told me, this boy was very insightful and resourceful. So this third note is actually Bruce reminding me of how sharp his mind was and how perceptive he can be. Can see opportunities where others didn't see any. And I know because I benefited from one very strange thing. He told me, man, that's a good investment there. I said, how do you know? He said, I tell you. There was a lot of money to put into it. But I tripled the money at the end. I tripled the money. I said, D, how you know? He said, I always knew it would go well. But he was that type of person. And I had a lot of faith in his capacity to see a business opportunity and do a deep analysis. He was on time, every time, or ahead of time. That's the man. I was invariably late, and I wanted straight to rationalize it. It was part of my nonsense. I said, if a man is consistently late, he's always early. Man, he just threw his hand at me and said, foolishness, he's talking all the time. Nonsense, he just dismissed me. He was very discreet with any information given. He was like a good fridge. He held well. You could share anything with him, Barney. He will hold it. Yet, this is a part of him that people miss. He was an intensely private man, giving little away about himself. He worked on the CIA principle, need to know. No need to know, there's nothing to tell you. Someone asked me, two persons asked me, how you all had that close relationship? It was a very close relationship we had, you know. I'll tell you about it in a minute. I said, because he never minded my business, and I never did likewise. We kept away from each other's business. What we settled on is to share certain experiences, which was a lot. And once you shared it, a comment could come or no comment. But we never got in each other's business. It was the healthiest things I've ever had a relationship with someone. Don't mind anyone's business. It's hard for several Barbadians to apply that one. But you could be that close to someone who would call me every morning at 6:15, discuss matters of state, high, low, and in between. And if there was any rolling breaking news, he would call on the evening, Paddy, Eddie, you hear this one? No. Boy, sit down and let me tell you this one. We exchanged a lot of news. He was an extremely gregarious social being. He loved to entertain. He loved to feed. He loved to say, Paddy, Eddie, come, we're going up by Champers. He and Chris Grosvenor, now deceased, had the same love for Champers. They would eat there morning, midday, and evening, every day of the week, every month of the year. They believe in Champers. We go to Champers and have a dinner. But he had a unique capacity to be absent in the crowd which he had created. You wouldn't recognize that he was there. Very amazing man. He thrived from that. He loved all of this. I mean, I could tell you D-Man is a lot in here. He loves that. But yet he disappeared. And unless you watched him closely, you wouldn't even notice that about him. He was a man with over 3,000. Give a minute. Over 3,000 contacts in his telephone. Where Heather is? Yeah. Boy, I got to talk with her. Over 3,000 contacts in his telephone. And this morning I got a call from Heather. Pat? You know how the Queen's College girls talk, very great. Billy Miller, all of them, Heather, all the way to the Queen's College. Pat, Heather here. You know me, a crude large boy with Barney Lynch. What happened there now, Heather? Oh, I was looking through the contact list. Yes. And I saw something I thought that would interest you. Indeed. I have actually found his direct link with the number to Putin in Moscow. I thought you would like that. I had to warn Heather this morning that this would be made public. So, never very talkative, huh? He was given to intense listening and observing. Like young Slocum, you would have watched him with great intensity. But when you provoked him, he held forth in not necessarily polite language. That was the nature of the man, but not often. He said he left that for me, but that's how he was. He's not a man to throw away a good and healthy friendship. He kept and he nourished and nurtured good friendships. Take Nicholas Branker. Nicholas ain't had any choice. Where's Nick? Yeah, that's what I tell you. Nick had no choice. You have to understand. Denis had several friends, I don't know, thousands of friends. But then he had subsets. And I was part of several subsets. There were those who ate with Reggie Smith and Lincoln and all of them, a lot of pig pork and put in his house and so forth. And the place there on the coast. I'm not a pig pork man. But Denis believed that hog was the greatest form of protein that a man could consume. He long argued with me with bogus statistics. Man, you always talking about this fish thing, man. Why, you know, the whole world is eating pork. I tell you, Eddie, I take your word on that. He loved what I call pig pork. Now, where's Admiral Nelson? Admiral got to be here. Admiral Nicholas, Denis, and myself used to eat cuckoo on bank holidays. He had a helper. What was the name again, Heather? Yvonne. Yvonne turned a mean cuckoo. And I have some cuckoo skills with my brother. There's a fact, this is dead serious. Our mother taught us how to turn cuckoo, and Sir Richard, as I like to call him sometimes, was in his heyday a very good cuckoo turner. So I can always appreciate a good cuckoo. It was mellow. There was an absence of lumps, Barney. And there was a good gravy of salmon, pepper sauce, slice of sweet potato, and invariably I would drink water. And Nicholas partook liberally, generously of that gastronomic feast. So he had to put on a big show here this afternoon. Correct, Nicholas? Right, good, thank you. So these subsets, but the greatest subset he had was probably those of us who assembled at the Waterfront Cafe on Friday night for many, many years. The sad news is that I am one of the few. There's still others standing, but I'm one of the few left standing. You had a man like Estimate Giddens, Denis, his good friend. What are you having tonight, Estimate? Breakfast. It's 8 o'clock at night. He want an omelette or 2 scrambled eggs, bacon, toast. And Estimate is having his usual stuff. Denis would always eat some pork. One of the sad things about his gastronomic choices was that he had a profound distaste for vegetables, salads. But in that regard, Chris Grosvenor, another good friend of ours, was the same. And they also had another common trait. Neither of them like water. It's a thing I never understood. Hudson Motley and I had 2 huge pitchers on the table. We had water, which we consumed liberally. You go to the bathroom, at least you know where you're going. And we also had tea. We were great believers in tea. I told them that drinking of tea has saved many a civilization. I never gave any particulars, but the boys liked it. They said it sounded impressive. And we engaged ourselves liberally at the waterfront. It was from 7:38 until 11. And that then, sadly, came to an end. Suppose what you learn in all of this is that, and Sam touched on it, it will come to an end. Whatever starts will finish. Even if you finished last night, Barney Lynch, who told me years ago that he was in a race, and he came up the blocks at top speed. And he thought he was doing well. He's medaling for Barbados until he realized he saw all the brands. He saw Adidas, Nike, and he realized he was seeing the bottom of people's shoes. Correct, Barney? Well, you can't sit up front and looking at me and don't get some lashes. So Denis had some real humor. His humor was real but subdued. The other characteristic that he had, and I need to touch on this, was that he was always grateful for assistance rendered. Now, when he was at Barbados Hardware, my brother did something that was very touching. He was then chairman of then IDC, subsequently renamed BIDC. And the Hilton, I believe, fell under the jurisdiction of the outfit he had. And the premium for the Hilton was so massive that Doc divided into 4. But what it did, it allowed this young fella now working at Barbados Hardware to walk into the Blanchetts with a big check, telling them that, yeah, man, I got a big check here. We're taking part of the cover for the Hilton. They must have been very impressed with this fella who just come in. But by that time, he'd probably not come back from London too long, and seemed to have some good contacts and understand the world of commerce. But I thank you, Doc, because that helped me to get off my start in my career. And that's a fact. Bruce, again, who was a man, he's one of our brothers. He knows everything under the sun. He reminded me of that. And I checked the Doc. The Doc said, yes, that is also spot on. Because as I said, those guys knew Denis long before he did from in England. His mother, stepfather, and everything. So his humor, subdued. But let me share with you. He and I I met Denis in 1978, and by 79 we were on holiday together. I always had a partner with me, and Denis always alone, 2 hands in his pocket, talking bear crap. We went to St. Vincent and then Beckway. We were coming back. They had a coffin on the boat. I said, D-Man, go over there by that coffin. He said, you foolish, they dig turn over. He was a big, frightened man when he was ready. And so he ain't going over there at all. I mark you, I was not going either. But we went to South Africa. You need to put on your seatbelt here. And it was a big tour. West Indies were playing. Mandela had been freed a few years before. I said, D, let's go to South Africa. He said, yes, man. I said, Patty, let's go, man. Man, do you remember we came over by you and spent a night and a half? And we never paid you. He is now dead, and I am in retirement partially. My advice is to let the dead die. So we went up by Wendy and, generously treated. And then we took 12 or 13 hours down to Cape Town, and D sitting there. I said, D, how things went, man? Yeah, man, good Patty, but I like this, man. He landed, man. He's looking around in the rear. We arrived in the Cape, and we were looking forward to going over to Robben Island, going up on Table Mountain, doing all the things, wineries, Kruger National Park, with a lot of wild animals. And I noticed Denis had a green bag. I said, D, what's in that bag? He said, boy, people fall ill on these tours all the time. I said, but I'm loaded with vitamin C. He says, we have to take a lot of that. So on some mornings you would hear, I would say D, C, and he would say P, C. So that could be Denis, Cadogan, Pat, Cheltenham. But it really would D, take your vitamin C, Pat, take your vitamin C. Okay, so this green bag. On the bus, everybody has the sniffles, save and except for Denis and myself, because we pelted in a lot of vitamin C. And people impressed with the fact that we look so healthy, man, these boys. And I had no gray hairs then, I can tell you. And Dee got this bag all the time about Barney, a green bag. People fall and say, Denis, you got that bag? He says a little something that you may need, and he was starting to dispense. I got a little nervous. I certainly wasn't going to him. Beverly Waldron, our good friend, had the sniffles, wasn't feeling well. Hi, Denis, what you got in that bag, boy? Beverly, for you, anything. Give Beverly something. Beverly got better, Cicely. Your friend Beverly got better. Lo and behold, Mickey Waldron, Professor Emeritus Surgery, big name, fall ill. And I watched one morning in the hotel lobby, they had a line of about 3, they went up to Dr. Quack Cadogan. And they're going at Mickey. Mickey's always very dignified. Denis, what do you have here to offer me? And Denis treated him. Now, it's sometimes a little difficult. Hold on, Sam. Sometimes a little difficult to know what he treated him with. Because I need to share with you what he had in this bag. This is a serious conversation. Now get serious, please. Duet spills. Fenzik. Caffeinol, Riz, Theraflu, Lima Call, Alcalada. He had snuff, generous quantities of snuff. Snuff. I said, D, why the snuff, man? He said, Patty, you're a foolish man. I said, always was. He said, they don't believe in all this medication for sinus. You need some snuff. Termagene. BNT ointment, Barney. Vicks. Benji's balsam. Phosphorine, 3 bowls. Iodex. 2 foul feathers. To help with the poultice with some candle grease. My man is a real doctor, Dr. Quack. For anointing, as we would say in the land. And some oil leaves to help with blood pressure, anybody blood pressure went up. This is a very important document. That's my friend. He treated everybody, and we survived that trip. And I respected him intensely. I wasn't going to him, as I told you, but others were quite prepared to line up. The man got phosphorine. 2 feathers, Barney. When he pulled us, his mate had to put it on nicely. Dr. Cadogan, man. Now, let me tell you a little about South Africa. Lovely hotel, maybe open about 4 months before we got there. And the 2 groups, the Jeanette Graves group and the Miss Norville, who recently died from Travel House, she had a group and they came together and we used the same bus. Really a great tour. I have some excellent photographs. Liz, you saw them? You ever saw them in the office? Yeah, I have an album there which I treasure because it also had in the last photograph which I gave to the Conrad Hunt's family. Well, years 1998 going to 99. And when he died, I told the family I had it and I shared it with them. And in those days, it was real photography. Photography is really one of my hobbies. It was none of these funny things. You flip it up and taking pictures. You had to set it up properly. And I enjoyed. Yeah, I see Heather going off every time, but you gotta get these jokes. And you gotta get 2 of these. So I said, Brother D, what's happening this morning? He says, we're not going anywhere. I mean, he said, we're not going anywhere. We have tours, man. The thing is set. And D said, let us sit down here. He said, what's we going to do? He said, well, we are going to play that we are members of the staff of the hotel. I said, yes. And what are we going to do? He says, you will greet the guests and I will be your assistant next to you. And for that whole day, me and this clown were in the lobby. Good afternoon. Welcome to the Hilton Cape Town. We're very pleased about this excellent choice you have made, and I can assure you the accommodation is very sumptuous and the service is absolutely stellar. And Denis there. We did it for the whole day. When the others came back, they asked us, what did you all do? I said, well, we just greeted the guests and took them up to the desk. This is a fact of life. No, number 2. This is a very interesting one. It tells you a lot about him as a person. Denis and I in the same lobby said, now running our mouths. And then all of a sudden, I missed the man. I said, but the fella gone. 15 minutes, I can't find Denis. Sam, some water, please. 15 minutes, I can't find you. I said, well, you must be going to the bathroom. I go to the bathroom. You know, I go on by the side and I look at you on his feet there. D! And the song. I said, whoa. It's a serious matter. I went up to my room, called him. No answer. I decided to go down to his room and I decided, you know, how in the movies you see how the detectives, and I was hoping that I had some power in the shoulders to push open the door, but I didn't try that. No response. I went back downstairs and I sat down. I said, well, I'm going to give him X amount of time and I will call the constabulary and report his absence. MIA kidnap. About 3.5 hours there, I see my man coming through. You know, usual style, how he's walk. Grinning from ear to ear. Patty? I grunt, yeah. I said, man, I can't find you. He said, man, I went outside. I just want a little fresh air. And I saw what looked like a ZR. Yeah, what you do with it? He said, man, I went up to the man. And I started to talk with him. I tell him I'm from Barbados. And he didn't ask you where it was. And he didn't answer that. I said, well, you did? He said, but I went in the front seat. He on the driver's seat. I went in the other seat. And I was sitting down with him doing all the trips from the port right up. Denis and the man driving all about for 3 hours. What is a fact? And I said, well, how you get back here, man? He said, very simple. The man put me right outside there. It said a lot about him. Huh? Could be bold, risky, but he also has a charm to him, an easy charm. He gets along with people effortlessly, and that is what he applied. It's a story when I shared it with the other members on the tour. They assumed coming from me in the Cheltenham that it was made up. So, Doc, you heard that. And I call Denis to verify and clarify. Very strange fella. I'll give you just the others I can give, but that was the one. He told me a lot about him, quite prepared to take a risk. He wanted to know a lot about South Africa. He was fascinated by it. And I think he got an extremely good briefing, both generally about South Africa and specifically about the Cape and the type of persons, the free coloreds, well, not free coloreds, the so-called coloreds, look like some is here, who were neither fish nor fowl or good old red herring. And so Denis was very elated by that experience. Now, Heather has given me the look, having called me this morning, given me the Putin information. Now let me, before I close, I have a list, and I'm going to run through it very quickly. And this is a special list in my view. There's a man in here called Bricky, William Paris. Bricky has always seen Denis as his son. He's treated him as his son. Bricky comes down, Denis goes with him all over Barbados. Wherever Denis goes, Bricky is with him. He doesn't express his emotions. He's probably like me in that regard. But I know he had a deep love and regard for you. And I know this must be extraordinarily painful. And I'm glad that you're able to come down. You're batting at 92 or 93. You probably will get to play in the second test. And you probably expected in the normal scheme that Denis would have gone before you. But ever so often, as my brother used to say to me, boy, you know, ever so often in life, you know, a green lime drops off the tree. And that is precisely what has happened here. So my sympathy to you, Bricky, on this loss. There's a lady called Heather. A serious package. Heather's his first cousin. 2 sisters' kids. They all come from St. Joseph, Western St. Joseph. And she's his uncle, his grandfather, his grandmother, his aunt, his cousin, his friend. And when he vexed, real vexed, he quarreled with her real bad. Well, all Heather says to him with grace, Mr. Cadogan, Mr. Cadogan, I will talk with you on that point a little later. That is Heather. A source of strength in a difficult moment. You want to have a friend or family member, like your mother, young man, feel proud of her. I worked with her because we had certain missions to accomplish. And I like Denis's language of missions to accomplish. And it was a joy to work with you, ma'am. We tried our best for him, but we knew at the end. When I was there on the Thursday, to tell you how she was so special, Heather, is Sam and I sitting down close to the door, because Sam is a big friend of mine like me. And Heather, Heather going around and looking after her boy, you know? Checking down in here, tapping, and all type of things. I watch you, Heather, and I really admired you. I bow to you, ma'am. And I applaud the quality of your effort and your commitment. There's a man called Phil Broom. He and Denis are really good friends, believe it or not. When Phil was at KFL, the bus is hard to get it back up to Curtin. Denis used to drive him from KFL up to Curtin every day. That's Denis. Nobody asked me, you don't owe Denis anything, you know. If you want to get Denis, feel insulted, ask him. They've remained, that friendship has remained. I've been to Phil's house with Denis several times. And Denis was like a member of Phil's family, fitted in perfectly. It's a warm family. It's a great Barbadian family when you go to Toronto. You could feel the love. he and I go about with Phil, kids playing football, everything. We just enjoyed Canada. And we were to go back. He and I were to do a Rockies tour. They had so many things on the list, and well, I got to do them, dear, and remember you. But I want to say a special thanks to you, Phil. Phil came down here in Barbados and spent a week at Denis's home. 2 weeks? 2 weeks, sorry. Sorry, Phil, my apologies. That's how he felt about Denis. 2 weeks at his home. Told me this morning when we was chatting with him around 2 o'clock on mornings, he would come down and check on his friend, man. Denis had great friends. And he threw good karma out and got it back. Whatever attempts people made to derail his government, there were always good foot soldiers. Some armed with big rocks, some armed with collins, some armed with some wampas, but they could defend him, and defend him we did. Phil simply, and Betty and all his kids just sent love, real love for him. Phil, we thank you. Then there was the music industry. Every year when crop over was about to start, this is how he would speak to me. Paddy, yes, D, my time, music. We can talk later. We was occasionally get the morning call, but he was obsessed with music. He loved it. And the type of music you heard in here is what he loved. You don't want any psalms or any hymns. That'd be alien to the man. He would not be comfortable. Chances are he would probably rise from inside there and make us run from in here. He didn't like that. Nicholas understood him very well. Admiral Nelson understood him. Barrow over there understood him. All those fellows who were in the music industry. Bag. He and Bag and myself used to go to Sandy Lane some nights. He likes eating. Man, you know they got good food in Sandy Lane on a particular evening, and Bag came down from St. Philip, and we would go down and talk. He always felt strongly committed to the music industry, and he told me that there was an abundance of talent. You only had to hear Jamal Slocum opening this afternoon to understand what he was talking about. I thought I had to give them a big up, as they say. Equity insurance is where he made his living. He was largely a man who brought in work. Great network he had all over this country. People coming back from England, music, you name it. People like myself, others, just brought in enormous. And he's always said, you know, equity was good to him. That's where he made his living. And I just want, for the record, to say thanks. And on this last one, Richard Blanchett. Now, you will know if you travel with Denis that he was a very excellent shopper. But he got his skill through, he was working in the insurance sector of Barbados Hardware Insurances. But Richard Blanchett used to take him with him to shop for the hardware. So when you travel to Miami with Denis, Denis could say to you, no, Lowe's has that. No, go to Costco's. Go to Walmart, man. We go to Walmart, we get that. Target, that's what the Americans, blacks call it. Target, right? I call it Target. Say go to Target. Denis knew every store, and he could shop for, if you were building a palace, Denis could shop for you. But he had great shopping skills. And but he always told me, thanks to Richard Blanchett, and he told them remained very good friends. I just want to say thanks to Richard. You made my man a happy man and gave him some skills which he deployed for all of us. For me, I went over the 10 minutes. I don't know. I don't know how you could expect me to speak about a man who was in my life for 10 minutes. And I have not even populated a lot of the general heads with some specifics. So I had the general head there, and at least I made it through. You had some indication of Dr. Quack and what was in the bag, the phosphorine, the feathers. And but for me, this is the difficult part for it. So if you see me sort of shake a little, you could understand this. This has been a dear friend of mine. Very dear, very special. He used to quarrel with me, but I, strangely enough, never answered him all my life. Never once answered him. I used to ask him all the time when he started speaking to me in French, that's your way of expressing love? And we played in further French. So I just learned how to deal with Denis. And not only helped me, but I used to tell him all the time, man, give some of these other youngsters some work. And there are others who came through Charlton that he briefed and gave them some work. Because that was his nature. He would share it and share it out. And I think that they themselves were touched by his generosity. I could only wish his soul a safe journey. One day I will join him, and we will pick back up Edinburgh and all the gossip. He will also feed me all that he finds down there. I wish his soul a safe journey. May he rest in peace. Thank you very much.